Alright, so we get this again. I will play another Caro to e4. That's what we've been playing. I might start playing something else at some stage. Alright, so they're probably gonna go for the two knights Caro. But maybe. I mean, if this is what they're doing on purpose, it is very common just to go e4, knight of 3. So it depends on what they're up to. Alright, takes. They take. Knight of 3. Sorry, knight of 6. They can take. It's usually what I play. I just like to take. But there are some tricks to be careful about. So after something like knight e4, knight f6, there's queen e2, which is a trappy line. Because if that position I choose not to take their knight, and I go something like knight e7, they have the very common checkmate, smothered checkmate. So we'll see. I have a feeling they might go queen e2, and if not, we'll just take back. But this is the trappy line, and I'll show after the game if I remember why. And it's pretty good in bullet. Okay, so it doesn't happen here, but if you can imagine after queen e2, pinning the pawn to the king, you know, through the knight. If in that position I would go knight d7, when the queen is already here, if you can picture that if they take this knight, I could take back with this pawn, but if this knight was here and the queen was here and they went over here, knight d6, this pawn would not be able to take, right? Because the queen's on e2. So this is a very common trap, and that would actually be a checkmate because the king would not be able to go here because the knight would be there, and the king would not be able to go anywhere else. There'd be no way to capture the knight. So it's very common. It's a tricky one, and I've had it many, many times. All right. So what do they play? They just guard. So question is, do I want to go straight into an endgame? Maybe I do. I could just take, and after they take, I'd take back. Then I have to decide if it's an endgame I feel like playing right now. And to be honest, I don't really see any reason not to go into this. It means they can't castle, and as black, you don't need to always play for a win. You just play well. Black always does start with a slight disadvantage, technically, so it's not a bad idea to get used to being okay with just having a solid position as black and not doing anything crazy. So I'm happy to do this, and I do think it's pretty good. The more you get into end games when you're lower rated, by the time you're a little bit higher rated, maybe end games be a bit more comfortable. It's one of those things that the better you are at end games, quite drastically changes the way you play your middle game, and it helps apply ideas for when you should or shouldn't trade in the middle game, trading pieces and everything, trading pieces, trading pawns. Here, by the way, this is just a developing move. It's not probably the best thing that I'm pinning us. You know, I probably wouldn't take back. But then again, maybe I do want to get rid of this knight. Thing is, I don't need to though, so I might just go knight d7. You know, if they go knight e5, that'd be a blunder because I could just take, and then if they try to take my bishop, I'll take back. If they don't do anything, I'm just going to castle long and pretty much just say that I have a slightly more active position. Here, I don't really see any reason not to just go c6 right away. Sorry, f6, because after f6, hello, Twitchy. How you doing, man? Decent streak, sir. Got a few people in here with some good streaks. Oh yeah. Yes, I wouldn't go knight f6. I don't see any reason why I would do this. I could also just castle long right away. But then well no, they can't castle. I will castle long right away actually. I don't see any reason not to castle long right now actually. Nice. Wow, crazy it's been that long already, Twitchy, since I met you on here. I mean, I know sometimes I might do 1 or 2 streams in a day, but I think, yeah. I think in your case, it probably is a once a day thing, isn't it? Very nice. Geez, that's 2 months. Where did you hate the war? I mean, me too, man. Me too. All of it. All right. So I can take this and I can kind of damage their structure a little bit. And how am I going to apparently do that? Well, I can take this after they most likely take with the bishop and give a check, you know, because of this, a little discover check, and then I just take, and then I play the end game. And to be honest, I'm probably happy to do this. It's not amazing for black, I don't think, but at the same time, I think probably in an end game, I think we'll be able to make this work, and any damage structures here are probably going to be better for black. You can see like all my pawns are kind of you know, not pushed for no reason. You don't always want to try. Oh, actually, I didn't. I'm gonna be honest, I missed that move. All right. I'm gonna start with this move for a reason. I'm gonna start with this because I want to see if they go. Okay, they're gonna go there. So they actually did blunder a piece, unfortunately. So this is what I say sometimes about just play solid and kind of see what happens. So if they don't move this bishop, if they choose to take my knight, they lose the bishop. So they're actually gonna be down a piece. So sometimes just being solid will kind of cause people to blunder. So normally you don't want to be the one to give up the file. So like if I take and then they take back, they are controlling the d file. However, I don't see what they can do with it, and I will be up a piece, so it's going to be pretty easy for me to play this here. So I'm simply, you know, I chose to take. I'm going to push maybe this pawn, I guess, and maybe come around this way. I see this being probably quite easy to play, and in fact, they actually can't stop me from winning this pawn or getting the bishop out, so they're going to have to push. Then I will simply either attempt to trade off the other pair of rooks and be up a bishop, or we'll do something else. But definitely completely winning here. You know, all things being equal, other than me being up a piece here, I don't see how they will be able to stop me from making a queen at some stage. You know, plans after, if the rooks get traded, I just try to make a pass pawn or something, or just try to take some free pawns like this, for example. So free pawn, they're going to give me a second free pawn actually. So they are not able to push, and I can kind of just lock this guy over there if I want to. Maybe this one best. I'll go this one. I might bring this one afterwards. Yes, really nothing to be done for them. I can do this with a tempo, that's why I'll do this. Basically, it means attacking the rook, and now they have to move the rook, so they kind of wasted a move kind of going there. I'm not sure if they're going to go here or not, or what the plan is, but, you know, if I get this in over there, maybe collect some of these guys. So they actually blundered the rook via a tactic, and I will complete this tactic, but always got to look out for checks, even in a seemingly simpler position. You know, it doesn't look like there's so many tactics here, but we can see if I look for the only check on the board that is possible right now, this is the only check. What happens? The king has to do something about it. They take it, and then I simply take this. Challenge! Thank you for the raid, man. How was the stream? So yes, check. They take, and I just take the rook. Always got to look for checks. Even if you think it's just giving up a pawn, whatever. Simply take, and they are cooked like a goose. Mini raid? No, it's a raid, bro. Appreciate it, sir. I hope you had a good one, man. Here, I continue with what I always continue with, just a basically Caro Kann. And I do usually take the pawn, depending on, unless I think it's a trappy line. And what I was describing in the game, instead of going d3, there's a lot of people that like to go queen e2. And why is it? Queen e2 is a good move. First of all, if I take and trade, there's other traps here, and I'll go into that one in a second, but there's at least two known traps that stem from this position, basically. One, the first thing is if I go knight d7, I'm getting checkmated. Immediately getting checkmated, and this is a very common trap. So you might think, oh, but it's fine, I just take. You cannot take because the king is behind, like the king and this pawn pinned because of this queen. So that's one of the ideas behind queen e2. The other idea is after queen e2, if I take the knight, they take the queen, they take back with the queen. So this is one line of theory, but won't go into this. I don't really know that one so well. Usually it's very natural. You want to get the knight into the game. So you go knight d7, and you think to yourself, I'm going to attack the queen. They start setting up a different trap here. And this is also quite commonly blundered. So they bring the bishop to c4. You go knight f6, and you say to yourself, I'm attacking the queen. And then they quickly move knight e5. And you go, ha, ha, ha. They blunder their queen. So you take the queen, and then you need a wambulance, but not for them. It says checkmate in one move, and you are getting absolutely smoked. King has no squares, and that's the second trick. So I actually like to play this as white, because I frequently get these checkmates in bullet, blitz, whatever. It doesn't happen as much past like 2000, but you know, sometimes in bullet, it can still happen, even over 2000. But yes, some really good lines here for white if they know what they're doing. What's very common is people, like when you kind of, for white, if you don't go for these tricks, a lot of the times you just take and it's just slightly better for white. Take back and, we end up in a simplified game. It just ends up being like a tactic hour kind of thing with the structure. Bring out the pieces. Yes, kind of this stuff might happen. Maybe you trade. If they end up in a simple endgame here, I mean, I think still slightly better for white just because of the pawn structure. This pawn is doing something here, preventing this knight from jumping in. Sometimes one of the things I find a bit more difficult is instead of this check, it's they just castle, castle. Sometimes you might get something like b3. If I go rook e8 and I'm not careful, and they go something like this, and if I just continue with the regular plan, which is like bringing the knight to f8, and this can happen in blitz and bullet too, not so much in rapid, they would be able to take this pawn. So yeah, always got to be careful in some of these lines. Got to keep an eye on where the pieces are moving, and then here, you're just down in exchange. So many tricks from such a simple position. So when people have the knights like this, I also do occasionally play d3 if it's blitz or bullet, once again, because I know that so many people know the tricks. But it can throw people off when you go d3 and they kind of forget that some of these tricks exist, and then you develop normally, and then you go queen e2. So this is what I like to do. And then if they're not careful and they just go, oh, if you go, like maybe this, like, oh, I want to stop stuff over here. This, things like this still happen. Unlikely as the rating gets a little higher, but you never know. And worst case scenario, like actually I won't go into too many of it now, but there's a lot of common lines where it just ends up being comfortable for white, even if black doesn't fall into any of the traps. So yes, here I guess they didn't know those traps, or they just didn't think it was going to work. And yes, I just decided to trade, keep it simple. You can see like still a teensy bit better for white, but not really. They don't have so much of an advantage anymore. Bring out the bishop, which I didn't think was correct either. Usually you do want to bring the knights out first, but I thought I'd be happy to show that if I just do not blunder, trade into a simple endgame, so bringing out the knight. Why this knight, for example, as opposed to like bringing out the bishop first or something? Well, this brings me the closest to castling right now. So it's one move, two moves. This would be like 1, 2, or like 1, 2, and then castles, or 1, 2 castles. So the quickest one is just there and there. Also, if you might be wondering, like, why not in this position take this first? Well, simply there's no reason to. And also, you don't want to, for no reason at all, you don't want to take a knight for a bishop. Especially if we can see this game is going to probably get simplified pretty soon. Yeah, so just knight d7, bring out the bishop. And I considered f6 first, but I thought I reserved the right to go there as well, so just castle. And then after they go h3, then I take, because they're giving me a reason to take. It also allows me to my next move to be the double check. Sorry, not the double check, but the discovered check, sorry. Which once again, still only a teensy bit better for white, but they're no longer going to have the bishop pair. I expected that they might after I went f6, I expected that they just go here, or they just go all the way back, or even over here, for example, right? And then I just thought to myself, all right, pretty normal stuff. Maybe I'll just take. It takes back because don't want to damage the structure, and then whatever, I go here or something, which I don't even think I would have. I might have considered this e5 just to prevent the bishop coming in that way. They moved the king probably to go f4, and I thought, all right, something simple like this, and just preventing the f4 from winning a piece. And after this, and bringing the other rook, maybe, I'm not quite sure. Thought I'd just keep it simple here. But this is kind of what happens at a lot of these rating ranges, is you kind of attack something and people try to be tricky and they try to give a check in between. But when you do give an in-between check, if you have a second piece that's also being attacked at the same time, it's kind of important to make sure that the piece that's giving the check can't be captured, because when I capture it, it ends up being one of my pieces hanging, one of their pieces hanging. So they essentially just lost a full piece. And then, it's relatively easy to convert this. I mean, at least, with the amount of games I've had, for me personally, it's easy to convert, but I do think a lot of people, even at 500-600, should be able to convert this if they just kind of follow the simple idea of just trade some of the stuff and just don't blunder again, which is easier said than done, but just always watch what your opponent's doing. Like here, for example, it's very clear that after this, they're considering something like this. So take this right away, because, they probably should have stopped me from getting to that. Like maybe an idea for white, if you guys are curious, what I would do if I was a white here is actually this, and then if I guess I could take this pawn. Maybe an idea is this, right? Probably it won't happen, but like maybe if I'm careless and I try to go there or something, I make a careless move as black and they get this. Maybe there's some ideas with this pass pawn, which is once again, very unlikely to happen. But always got to go for something. Mustaf, what's up, sir? How you doing, man? Anyway, after they let me take on e5, it's pretty much nothing left to do, and I think they kind of just bit of a brain slip here, because it just gives me another pawn. Simply lock the bishop in place. Here, I don't think this honestly the best move. Like maybe they consider this. Probably doesn't do much. They're kind of controlling the open file, but I'm very happy to trade it. Probably going to start doing something over here, or maybe this actually, and try to make some threats this way. It's probably not bad, but it's very, very, very easy for black to play. And yes, after they went there and gave me this move with the tempo, they moved to one of the squares because they wanted to go forward, which makes sense, but sometimes you have to realize going backwards is the only move. They go forwards, and it does walk straight into the discover check and take it and cooked. So that was once again, straightforward in terms of trade it down into something that's winning, and then don't do anything silly, and that helps you win. Like I'm sure I'll say this 1,000 times before we get to 2,000 in this slow run, that if you're winning already, don't do anything excessive. Just continue to have an advantage and allow your opponent to try to make something happen. If you don't need to make something happen when it's already happened. And you can see, like in the opening, you just playing solid gets people to blunder. Doesn't happen always, but anyway, good game to them. One more and we'll be at 600.